appreciate you coming and participating.
My pleasure.
Well, do you have a phone number? We're going to make a decision tomorrow afternoon. We intend to call everybody and let them know. Do you have a number you would like for us to call you?
Yes, my cell number is 352-362-8808.
Okay. And the way we want to do this is we'll give you a chance to have a 3-minute opening. If you see my hand go up, that means you got 30 seconds left. And then we'll ask you some questions, and then you'll have a 2-minute period to close.
Okay.
All right? You're on the clock. Go for it.
Okay, thank you. Good afternoon. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to speak. I'm Brian Lambert. As Mr. Hood indicated, I'm a circuit judge over Marion County. I guess a little bit of background about me. I'm married. It'll be my 25-year anniversary this Saturday, actually. I've been married for 25 years to my wife, Kathy. She's a registered nurse in the emergency room at the village's hospital. She and I have 3 children. One's a lawyer, one's a lawyer-to-be, and one's soon, hopefully, a physician's assistant. She's up in Chicago trying to do that. I've been a member of the Florida Bar since 1981. I graduated from the University of Florida Law School. I came out of law school and I became an associate with the law firm of Savage, Crim, Simons, Fuller, and Ocala. I practiced a general trial practice for roughly 10 years with that firm, and then I went out on my own in 1992, and I was primarily an insurance defense attorney. About that time, after 10 years, I became a board-certified civil trial lawyer. I got my AV rating from Martindale-Hubbell right around that same time. And for about the next 8 years, I did primarily insurance defense, construction litigation, things like that. Back in 1997, I first applied for the circuit judgeship. There was, back in the days when we used to have new judgeships created, like now, I applied for that. I made it through the short list, and Governor Childs appointed Judge Eddy, who's actually my suite mate now. And then my second time through, I made it out of the committee and was appointed as a circuit judge by Governor Bush back in February of 2000. I started my job in March 1 of 2000. So I've been a circuit judge for roughly 12 years, a little over 12 years, and I've handled pretty much every docket other than the dependency docket. I started in the family law docket, went to civil for 3 years, went on a felony docket for 4 years. Went back to civil during the height of foreclosures for 2 years. Last year I was on the family docket, and now I'm back on felony. I also did 1/8 of the new foreclosures and the guardianship. All during that time, I've also been on the appellate panel, the circuit appellate panel, for 10 years, writing most of the opinions for the 5th Circuit appellate panel and all of the dissents. I've also been the probate judge for a number of years until last year, for about 9 years. I've started my interest in the appellate court, started in about 2000 or 2001. I've sat as an associate judge on the 5th DCA 5 or 6 different times over the years I've been invited back. I've written 5 opinions, plus I wrote a dissent on my circuit court appeal that they adopted as an opinion over here. So I've written, I guess, 5.5 opinions perhaps. The last opinion that I wrote is actually the writing sample that I appended to my application. This is my 6th time appearing before the 5th DCA JNC. The commission through the years has been gracious enough to pass me through each time to the governor, so I've been 5 for 5 with the commission, obviously 0 for 5 with the various governors, but that's another story, I guess. Some things about me, civic-wise, I've been on various committees, the jury instruction committees for the civil business. I'm now on a Jimmy Rice committee, where there's a case that just came out of the Supreme Court that needs to address Jimmy Rice. And my kids, during the years, I've been a Little League baseball coach for 12 years. My daughter was a high school All-American swimmer, won certain state titles here in swimming, and I was a swim coach.
Judge, you need to kind of wrap up.
That's a wrap then. I've been a mentor to new judges. I'm on the local bench and bar committee, grievance committee. I've done various things like that within that type of situation. So,
thank you. Anybody have any questions for the judge?
Judge Michael Martyr, I had the privilege of vetting your application.
Yes, sir.
And talked to some of your peers, a number of close people close to you that have known you for many, many years, and your application, I must say, and your experience is very impressive.
Thank you.
I have two questions. One, how does it feel to be under a time limit? And
Well,
you have so many people appearing in front of you, and you're setting the time limits.
Well, it's interesting because one of the things I try to impart upon lawyers and young lawyers is stay focused and answer questions, and brevity is a lot better than too much talking, and you become much more effective. So I'm learning my own lessons here that I've done this before. And
The other question I have is, can you tell us what the most significant career event for you has been that you think qualifies you to be on the appellate court and why?
Well, let me answer that in two ways. What was the most telling to me that made me become a better lawyer was about 5 years into my practice. I was at the firm. Right across the parking lot was a gentleman named Bill DeCarlos, and Lewis knows Bill DeCarlos. Bill's one of the best attorneys I ever saw. He was a criminal defense attorney. He was representing a fellow who had been charged with killing his wife and his in-laws. And I was doing the deck action and some of the civil part, and he let me kind of tag along to help. I never thought he'd ever get a not guilty in that case, so I thought my involvement was going to be minimal. When he got a not guilty by reason of insanity, then my civil part came into play. And Bill was gracious enough to let me see how he did this. I thought I had been a decent lawyer for 5 or 6 years into it. I saw the preparation and the hard work, and I mean, he had blazing intellect, but the hard work and the integrity and the effort that he did strikes me to this day. I still tell people that was the turning point in my career I said, you know what, that's how you're a professional, that's how you're a real lawyer, that's how you're effective, that's how you do things. And I'll never forget that experience. It was back in the mid-'80s that I did that. From a standpoint of wanting to do appellate work, I think where it finally came to me is I was applying early on to do this, and I've spoken with Judge Sawai, who's also been a friend of mine, and he kind of told me, he says, you have the ability, you have to make the effort, you have to understand what you're doing, you're there, but you got to keep working, you got to be more thorough about what you're doing. And so I take that I'm probably one of the few judges that writes all my own judgments, writes all my own orders, and I took that to heart when I talked to Tom. To try to understand that, you know, there's different levels in what we do. We think we get satisfied with certain things, but there's better, and it just struck me listening to him because he's very passionate about what he's done. He's an excellent writer. I respect him immensely. And when I talked to him about that, when he has helped me along this time, it really, a light clicks, for lack of a better cliche, that he's, I don't call him my mentor, but he's been the one that's inspired me to do that. It's just his guidance. You know, it wasn't really any case I wrote or any opinion I wrote. It's just been something like that.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Judge Jim Ascorn,
Yes,
so thank you for being here. In vetting and listening to people that have called us about you, at least personally, one of the stories I heard, and you can correct me if I have this incorrect, but there was a time when you sat on the Fifth, and I believe wrote an opinion, and it was about to be en banc. And you not only changed your opinion because of that, but I believe wrote the opinion.
I wrote it.
Okay. What case was that?
That I actually have it. It's called Singer versus Williamsburg. I don't know why I have it, but Singer versus Williamsburg was I was on the Singer versus Unibel. Williamsburg were actually the defendants who were happy that they won. Unibel.
And just to follow up on that, what did that teach you? Obviously, as a circuit judge, you're working, you're making decisions on your own, but you've got an experience like you had there, and working with different members of the 50CA, but about collegiality.
Well, I get along well with the people. I think I have a good sense of humor, and I appreciate getting it right, as opposed to just saying, well, I'm the judge and I ruled and I'm not going to look at motions for rehearing. And it was kind of an interesting scenario. You ever want to appreciate the back door of what goes on there. When we all went back there, they said, that's a PCA. I said, well, this is a sign to me. I'd like to write about this one because I think it's interesting. So I wrote the opinion, and little did I know, Judge Torpy wrote a dissent following up about that. Because I was like, boy, I didn't realize that was going to happen. And I said, well, okay, Judge Monaco and I were still 2-1, and then Judge Torpy called me up and said, we're going on bonk, and it's still 9-1 against you. Judge Monaco is still with you here, but